Hey, property management friends, welcome to This Week in PM. I'm Jeremy Pound from RentScale and your host of the show. It's another month. It is already May. And yes, I am saying that with my best in sync voice in my head as I say it. And that means another scoreboard, which we're excited to share with you guys today. So welcome. We have an amazing amount of data to share with you. The coaching team hustled to get us the new numbers for April, only 2 days into the month. So I'm excited to share that data with you today for our new business development scorecard so that you can see if property management sales are up, down, or flat month over month. That's why we do this for you guys. Now, speaking about new business development, we've got one of our Scale Club BDMs here today from Missouri as a guest, along with Jason Sheffield, our longest standing coach here at RentScale, to spill the beans on how he kicked his sales performance into overdrive in Q1. But while we wait for our other friends to sign on and join us live, I want to share a recent clip from a previous show in case you missed it.
How much the residential real estate industry and market has shifted these last 2 years. The largest population in the US history, the millennials, are reaching the age where they're becoming peak household formation. Now, many of these millennials have spent years, if not a decade, living their entire adult lives in basically a large multifamily complex or even living at home. Now, as they start to build families, we can just imagine that the demand for single family houses, now talking about single family homes like 4 walls and a backyard, the white picket fence, everything we think about, the demand is skyrocketing for single family homes. Meanwhile, the transactional real estate market has essentially grinded to a standstill because of the mortgage rates and the fact that nobody's selling.
Subscribe to us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, or X so that you can watch these industry episodes live and be the first to hear what's new and trending. And when you show up live, you can chat with us on any platform so that we can answer your questions live during the show. Okay, let's talk about what we're seeing here in the industry before we jump into our great show. So obviously, I just mentioned it's May already, which means we're off to a fast start. That means another meeting from the Fed. So I think everybody saw the news yesterday that there is just no signal that rates will be coming down anytime soon. And perhaps there is a hint that rates may actually rise or there may be another increase before the end of the year. So if you follow me on X or you've seen what I've been talking about, I really do believe that we may be in another version of the roaring 20s. This is maybe one of the hottest economies that we've ever seen. I appreciate that it's not equally hot for everybody in every business and everything, but it never is. But overall, I just don't see inflation coming down too fast, too soon. And I don't see rates being cut. And so, as I said earlier in the year, this may be the lowest rate that we see for the entire year, maybe 2 years. So as a property manager, as an investment advisor, as a business development manager talking to investors, I think it's important for us to stay up on this. Nobody has a crystal ball. I have no idea. Anything can happen. I've lived long enough to go through 9/11, the dot-com crash, the financial bubble. Things come out of nowhere. And the Fed wants to keep the rates at a level where if there is a catastrophe and they need to move the economy, they can bring it down. And there's nothing in our economy right now that's showing that there's any reason for them to lower rates. A second big news coming out of broker owner and just in general industry catalyst is Bigger Pockets is launching their property management finder tool. So we had a webinar just for our RentScale clients last week. I think we had almost 100 property managers there learning about Bigger Pockets and how they're leaning in to the property management finder, just like they did the real estate agent finder years ago, that really brought a ton of business to your companies. So if you don't know about that, reach out. We'll tell you at the end of the show. I know our clients got an amazing opportunity to get in. It just launched yesterday. They got to be beta clients and they got a special deal. That's gone. But if you don't know about it, you need to reach out to Bigger Pockets and find out about their property management finder. And I'd be happy to introduce you to the person responsible for that. They're really leaning in. So expect a lot more content about the value of property management, specifically the value of professional property management. That's what I reached out to them about. That's the conversation I've been having with them, is that the difference between an average property manager or an agent who does property management on the side and a professional property management is tenfold. And they are going to start getting that message out. Congratulations to you guys. I think that's going to help you a lot. Make sure you're a part of that program if you can. So let's talk about that business development. And we love to share the data with you. As you guys know, we have the largest community of property management sales professionals in all of North America. So over 70 people, we're catching data from everything that they're doing. They're sharing it with us. We're coaching them, and we want to share the data with you. So let's check in with Jen for the April Business Development Scoreboard.
Hey everyone, back at you with another Scale Club scoreboard update, this time for the month of April 2024. And spoiler alert, we saw some declines that were not expected. So can't wait to share with you lessons learned and how we are going to turn that around for May. But before I dive into that, we had something pretty exciting happen in the month of April. Our Scale Club Mastery members got to present to Skill Dev. Now, I know I just said a lot of things that nobody understands, so let me break that down for you. First of all, Scale Club Mastery is our elite level BDMs doing things differently than most other BDMs do. They're part of a special by invite only club. They usually are at the top of our leaderboard and our scoreboard, and they are doing things like creating presentations. They have book club, they have sales lab. We do things that are a little bit outside the box and different from normal club. These are kind of our next level top performing BDMs. Now, I also mentioned Skill Dev. So Skill Dev is a development session that we host the last Friday of every single month. And usually our coaches are coming in with some sort of trend that we're seeing or struggle that all the BDMs are having in our community of 70. And they're bringing a lesson to teach and help coach these BDMs through this. However, in the month of April, we had our mastery members come in and be the ones teaching. Ever heard the mantra, see one, do one, teach one? Well, it was time for them to teach one. Get them comfortable in front of a group of people. So they talked about personality profiles. Their presentation was fantastic. They had a lot of relevant real life practice that they actually see happening so that everyone can see it role played out. And they talked about how to connect with everybody, every prospect that we have on the other end of the phone or during a consultation based on their personality profiles. It was fantastic, absolutely mind blown. Now, we have another one of these coming up in May, and our second group of mastery members is going to present on a different topic. If you'd like an invite to that and you'd like to learn from our elite level BDMs from them themselves, we would love to have you. So reach out to me, Jennifer@rentscale.com, if you would like an invite to that. Now, without further ado, I know I said spoiler alert and then I made you guys wait, but we did see some interesting trends in the month of April. And so I'm excited to go through those things with you. First of all, I want to highlight our lead volume up to 33, up 43% from March. It was pretty incredible. What do we attribute this to? Well, we've been working with our community to get out and build social media connections and social media content. A lot of that started to come through in the form of leads. Now, those leads have to be nurtured and haven't been closed. So something else we saw was a decrease in our total number of doors for April of 2024. Not something we expected. We actually typically expect to see May climb above April and then June climb above May. So this was a little bit shocking, and our Scale Club coaches did some reflection on this to figure out why we had an increase in leads but a decrease in total number of doors closed. And really, what we came up with as we talked with all the members in our community was the leads increased, but they needed a lot more nurture because they were more long-term. And so a lot of them haven't converted over. We're hoping to see some of those come through and shift those arrows from down to up in May. I would like to highlight that we had 4 record breakers in April. So even though as a community as a whole, we were down, we had 4 BDMs starting to rise up, and the competition is heating up in Scale Club. This month, South Ogden came in at 35, Denver, Colorado at 26, Red Bank, New Jersey at 26, one of our newer BDMs, by the way. Columbus, Ohio, 23. This BDM started a short couple of months ago, and he's already at the top of our leaderboard, and I expect him to be there for the foreseeable future. So excited to see what he does. And lastly, Chicago, Illinois in at 18. Our community achieved 77% to goal. And out of all of our members, we saw an average of 9 doors added, which really was pretty equal to what happened in March, down just a tiny bit, but we're talking point nothing. And top 50% of our community was down to 11 doors from 14. So that was a fairly decent and sizable increase. Coming up in May, we're looking to convert on some of those leads that you see were increased. We are making sure to continue on that social media lead generation and continue that train. And we're also really excited to see what our community does with the brand new Bigger Pockets lead generation and some of the coaching that we're giving with that. So if you were not at the Bigger Pockets webinar and you would like a recording of it, I would love to send you one. There was a special offer in there, so unfortunately you might have missed out on that, but it's still worth watching because it's all about generating leads, and we're going to be providing some coaching on how to convert those leads that you generate. So that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this edition, and I will see you again in May. Back to you, Jeremy.
All right. That was exciting stuff. We'll skip the commercial. We'll get right back to it. I think it's amazing to see all of that data and share that and see what everybody's going through. I'm also really excited to tell you about one of my favorite things about running RentScale. So I'd like to bring on the guests and share with you something that I get to see all the time. So there's 2 things. Number 1, I've got some of the greatest coaches that I've ever seen that come up with amazing ideas that are constantly trying to push the boundaries and come up with new contests and new things that will train our people. And second, my team is constantly sharing the wins from what we're seeing in the industry. And we do that so that we can write about it in Strategic PM, the magazine, so that we can share it on the show. And Jason Sheffield, one of our coaches, came to us and said, hey, I got a really great story. We got to talk about this. We ran this competition. Somebody won this, and I think it's actually like changed their trajectory as a BDM. So Jason Sheffield, please come join us and tell us what you were so proud about and introduce us to our guest today.
Absolutely. So for anybody that's part of the RentScale community, you'll know that practice is one of the most important things that we can do in sales. And we run practices 3 times every single week. Anybody that's part of Scale Club can come and participate in that. But I'll be honest, sometimes getting people to practice can be a challenge. And so the old adage of what you incentivize gets done really drove us to say, you know what, let's put a challenge together. We're going to bring this to the whole community. Whoever shows up to the most practices in the month of March will receive a $500 cash prize from RentScale. And let's see what happens. And I'll tell you, just as a little bit of a recap, I ran all the practices through the month of March, and it was head to head. In fact, Jason, who I'll be bringing on here in a moment, who won the challenge, it ended up going down to a tie. There was another BDM that showed up the same amount as Jason, and it went to a tiebreaker, which was attendance and Scale Club. So purely the fact that Jason and his consistency in showing up and participating got him this extra $500 in his pocket was really exciting. And I wanted to bring Jason on today to talk more about what he learned, what the experience was like, and share with everyone else what this practice process was like. So Jason, glad to have you, man.
Hey, Jason. Thank you so much for inviting me onto this. Practice was amazing back in, when was it, March that we had this? So
yeah.
Made it.
So So Jason, I just want to kick things off first, man. Before we get into the practice and all the elements and some things there, I first just want to know, like, how long have you been at your company?
I've been at Key Renter St. Charles since December 11th. So
Okay.
we're on month 5 now.
So 5 months into the game. Before we kind of go, I want to know, like, right now, what would you say have been some of the biggest wins of what you've experienced in your first 5 months as your company's BDM? You're the first BDM there, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So it's just our owner and me. So it's just a 2-man show. But I think the biggest win is seeing our company actually grow. We started with 62 doors and now we're over 70 doors. So just seeing the growth, and now that we need to hire another person, that's just the exciting thing that I get to see happen,
And directly because of a result of you selling, the company is growing.
Correct. Yep.
So take me a little bit back. Tell me, what were you doing prior to this job? What were you in sales? Just paint a little bit of a picture of your experiences.
Yeah. So I was in the restaurant industry for 7 years, which probably really taught me how to talk to people, problem solve, and really just read people really fast. People sit down at a table. I need to know what kind of people they are so I know how to serve them. And then I met this really cool guy, and he offered me a mentorship for a 1.5 years. Got to do that. That had a little over 40 companies across the United States. So when I was 19, turning 20, I pretty much got to experience that and saw what high-level companies got to do to run a successful business. And then I got my real estate license and was in sales for 2 years. And now I ended up in a BDM position. So
Okay. So in your previous sales experience, did you ever practice? Had you ever gone through anything like this where kind of getting into this process of practicing was part of what you did in sales?
No. The only practice that I would say I had was going to CEs or just going to like speaker series that the association would have, just listening to people.
And so I hear this a lot from BDMs who they've never practiced sales before. The idea of practice is intimidating. And I want to just tee up for everyone a little bit like what we mean by this idea of practice. It's something we really deeply believe in at RentScale. And the first thing is always to remind everybody that practice is not role play. And I think often in sales, that's kind of what people think about, is that this is like a role play, right? You're role playing a script. And we do not approach it from the perspective of role play. In fact, we don't ever use that word. It's always the idea of practice. So when we practice, again, just so everybody understands what we're doing, there's always 3 people that are participating at any given time in practice. So first you have the person, that's the salesperson. Then you have obviously the prospect. And then someone is playing the role of the observer, just paying attention to what the salesperson is saying. And when we create the practice, there are 3 things that we always do. First, we get very clear on what is the goal that we're practicing. So every time we practice, we kind of have a focus. So it could be discovery or closing. It could be objection handling. It could be your doing your outbound outreach. And so that creates kind of the focus. Then we set up, okay, well, what's the goal? And then when you think about what beyond the goal, how are you going to accomplish that? So we kind of talk through those key elements with whoever the salesperson is. And then we set up a timer, typically about 3 minutes. And we always remind everyone, again, this isn't improv class. You don't have to act. Just, you've all been on calls before. Embody what you hear from your prospects. Bring that to the salesperson. And let that salesperson get a rep on articulating what it is that they want to say. So if it's your pricing or objection handling, again, these various elements. So that's just what's going on in practice. I want to kind of tee that up for everyone. So Jason, they kind of understand what it was that you were going through. So tell me, if you can remember, like back before the challenge, when you stepped into doing practice, what were some of those first feelings you had about even just doing this with us?
To be honest, I had no idea what was about to happen. I hopped in a call and I was like, it's not going to hurt. Whenever you can have a chance to be in front of someone like Jason or one of RentScale's coaches, they've been in your position. They've done it very successfully. So it's just an honor to be able to even get an extra 30 minutes to an hour of their time to just pick up little tidbits.
So you'd done it. You'd had some hesitancy, but you had committed to it. When we put the challenge out there, why did you decide to commit to it? I mean, there were 12 opportunities. Again, we practiced 3 times every week. So you had a total of up to 12 hours of additional practice. I went back and looked at the numbers. You showed up to 11 of the 12. There's only one time that you missed. Why did you decide to make the commitment to doing it in the first place?
Honestly, because one of you guys said it, even professionals go to practice, you know? And that really kind of stuck to me, even when I was younger playing baseball. Even though we had games, you know, you still had to practice throughout the week to be ready for your games. So if you want to go out and close a deal, you need to practice in order to close deals, you know?
So in that, how did you land on, or maybe tell me, what were some of the most challenging parts to consistently showing up? Because if I remember correctly, I think you showed up one time in the car, one time you were at the park. Like it wasn't like you were always just sitting at your desk. You worked it into your life. So what was challenging about that? Or can you kind of go back to just that process of creating the space for it?
Yeah, it goes down to time blocking your days. And even though you're not always at your desk as a BDM, you're out in the field, going to office visits, going to on-sites, countless things. If you're time blocked, you look at your calendar in the morning, you see what you need whenever you leave the house. Hey, you have practice today. You need to make sure you have your laptop. You need to have your phone charged for hotspot. You just got to plan your day out. That was the biggest part of making sure that I was very consistent with it, was how planned was I every week. And it made it on my calendar every single week. Whenever, if someone's not on the calendar, most likely you're going to forget about it and not show up to it.
So that was the first commitment you made, is just getting it on the calendar and showing up.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've felt before in practice that's hard is the idea of repetition, right? Anytime you're practicing something, it's not always about new things. It's just about the repetition of the action, the repetition. So I'm curious, being, 5 months into the role, beginning to really elevate your game in sales, how did the repetition support your actual sales conversations? Like, can you think about an example where it actually, something you practiced and because of the repetition showed up in what you did in sales?
Yeah. The one that I probably can think of off the top of my head was, we practiced handling objections on one of the days, and I had the objection of selling versus renting, and they were really not going to make a bunch of money on renting out their house. So the objection was trying to teach them about appreciation and how rents go up throughout the time. So practice that for a 3-minute little practice. And when I went and followed up with that person later that day, I ended up getting the on-site scheduled and closed that out by the end of the week. So it was just getting Jason's input on the situation before I actually had to go through and actually do it in real life.
And can you remember, like, I would love to hear, like, what was it that pushed them over the edge? What did you bring, or how did you educate them? Because that's a conversation that I know we have a lot in Scale Club, this whole rent versus sell. Like, do you remember the thing that you were actually able to sell them on?
Yeah, I kind of sold them on the wealth gap thing. So I sold them on, people are going to pay down your mortgage. Your house is going to appreciate. So one thing's getting lower, one thing's getting higher. That's how the wealth gap gets built. So that really, putting that into like an actual visual for them was kind of what I saw their eyes kind of pop up and like, okay. And having a professional property management company, it's not going to take a lot of their time. So having a professional do it for you, it's going to be a safe investment, and they didn't necessarily need the cash flow. So once you got into their actual finances and stuff, you just need to be able to point out if they actually have to have the cash flow or not.
What I love about that, Jason, is, and again, I see this all the time in coaching, is that these are like relatively challenging conversations to have with people, right? There's complexities to it. There's a level of confidence that you need to have in articulating these things. And when you don't know exactly what you want to say, these are hard things to like wing it on. And look, I've been in sales for a long time. We work with a lot of salespeople. As salespeople, we love to wing it. Like it's one of our favorite things, right? There's like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I'll figure it out when I get there. But when you do, you inevitably like the whether it could be the lack of confidence or exactly what it is that you want to say, you stumble on your words, and then it's like you miss, right? Like you're up at bat and you take a strike. So I'm curious if there's any other examples or ways where you've seen, because you practice something, you felt like you had the confidence to articulate it, staring in the face of challenge or objection with a client.
For sure. I mean, honestly, I think the biggest thing that I saw in my day-to-day was me being 23 and having on-sites with a bunch of grown-ups. And the first thing that they always say to me when I walk up is, "You're way younger than I thought you were going to be." Mm-hmm. So articulating everything in practice and knowing and getting the feedback that I need, it just honestly just brings off the anxiety of when I walk up to the doors, because I know that I'm supposed to be in this position. So it just puts me in a lot more comfortable of a position. And it isn't necessarily any one conversation has improved because of a certain practice. It's all the practice that adds up that just gives you the confidence to go in and have not even scripts, but just stories that you have seen in practice, you know?
Jason, I'm curious like how you would maybe add to this, or if this feels true to your experience. But one of the things we talk about in practice is sometimes it's not what you're saying, but it's how it feels, right? Like in the same way that when you're practicing a sport and you're getting your swing dialed in, or you're getting that free throw shot dialed in, it's about how the shot feels. And it's how it feels in your body. And sometimes the nerves of practicing, I hear this all the time. People are like, it is way harder to practice with you than it is to be on the phone calls. And that's great, because I almost want your nerves to be higher with me, because if you can get it out and sound confident, then how much more you're going to sound confident when maybe, you know, you're just on the phone with someone. How did that process show up for you, where we all have nerves, we all kind of have that feeling in our stomach? By feeling that in practice, how did that help you kind of overcome that when you were out in the field selling?
Yeah. I think I can recall 2 days during practice that I was in the middle of a call and all of a sudden I just stopped talking because I literally ran out. I got stumped. It's either Jason was the prospect and would be talking with me and he would stump me on a question. And it really honestly humbled me when that happened, because it taught me a lot of when you're actually out there in the field, it really isn't as scary or whatever, because those people really don't know exactly what property management is. So when you actually are talking to people that are trying to get into you or trying to get to point out your flaws, it really does make a difference when you're out in the field.
Yeah, I will admit, for anyone that does come to practice in the future, there are times if I'm your prospect, I might play a little bit harder than your other salespeople because of that point, right? We got to get to that process of practicing where you feel comfortable with the challenge. And that's always going to be the differentiator of a salesperson that can drive to the close versus those that can't, is how well can you handle your own nerves? How well can you handle the adversity that's in front of you when someone's objecting or they're challenging you? You know, we got to get comfortable with that stuff. And like my grandfather always told me when it came to golf, like you can't practice on the golf course. Like that's what the driving range is for. And so that's what we try to create in the practice environment. So going back, and again, Jason, thank you. I love your honesty and how you're answering these questions, and I'm just driving it in for you right now. But just a few more, and we'll kind of land the plane. And I know Jeremy has a couple other questions too. But this was back in March that we were practicing. How did you see this impact your sales coming through April? Because I believe April was a bigger month for you in your sales experience. So how did what you did in April affect your future in sales?
Yeah. So, I mean, just getting down to the basics of it was March, I closed 2 deals. April, I closed 8. So
wow.
Just from there, you saw a huge change in close rate from March to April. But it really, our sales line, like our pipeline has really kind of built up now. I'm being able to nurture people better because my conversations are going better, and I'm getting them in the right spot in our CRM to make sure that those follow-ups are happening. And the leads are just starting to trickle in now, and I'm having a good success rate on closing them. Last month I was around 50% on close rates. So I think that was really the biggest thing, is I went from 22% close rate all the way up to northward of like almost 60% success rate on closing. So,
dude, to double your close rate in 30 days, that's a headline that'll sell. I love that, man. So you're still showing up to practice. Like yesterday, we practiced together. Why do you think other salespeople should be practicing?
I think I just sold it,
That's it, right?
Yeah. No, realistically, I think everybody should practice because nobody is perfect. And there's a reason why we're in Scale Club. We need the coaching. We need to keep bettering ourselves. And I think everybody should always just strive to push to better themselves at the end of the day. Nobody should stay complacent with closing 2 deals when they could be practicing and possibly close a 3rd deal that next month. It's only 30 minutes out of your day. So log in, get it done, and move on. Like you said, some days I had to pull over at a park, get in on practice. Some days I was literally in the car to get on practice, but you made it work, and it paid off.
So my last question, and then I'm going to pass it off to Jeremy. Are you willing to share what you spent the $500 on, or what you're going to do with the $500?
I haven't thought that much on it. Probably going to go on a shopping spree, probably going to get some new shoes. And who knows what I'll do with it.
New shoes. It's a common answer. I love it. Well, Jason, Jabor, so impressed with you. Clearly we cared. We had a hunch that this was going to work, which is why we were willing to put up the $500 bounty on our own dime. And you clearly have made me as a business owner not second guess that investment one bit. Sounds like you've really done that. So I got 1 or 2 more questions for you. Thank you so much for being here. But I want to ask a question to Jason, actually, Jason Sheffield. So I'm thinking back like 4 years ago. So Jason Sheffield has been with RentScale since the beginning. He was employee number 1. We're 5 years in. Maybe 3 years ago, I said, I don't think we're practicing enough. I think we need to be practicing all the time. Like we need to have multiple days of practice. And there was a little like, well, that's a lot of work. Like, are we sure we want to do that? Like, can we staff for that? I just want to get your take, kind of fast forwarding, seeing it actually happen. What are your thoughts to a business owner, to an entrepreneur trying to scale a sales organization? Have you bought into practice to where like there's not enough, or is it still too much? Like, what are your thoughts on this overall?
I mean, I think the biggest thing I've seen with practice and participating with it is absolutely one of those things. Like you get what you you get from it, what you put into it. Yeah. So that's one of the things I've loved in seeing Jason show up this way is, he put into it a lot and got a lot out of it. I see various levels of BDMs who are willing to commit to it and those that aren't. And it's, it's one of those things like you can lead the horse to water, but you can't force them to drink. And I think that's really what practice is all about. And Jeremy, you held the line. You like, guys, we got to do this. We got to create the opportunities. And I think that's the biggest thing that we can do as coaches. Like any coaching is like, I'm not the one in the field playing. I'm not the one making the shots. It's my job to hold the space for it, to create the opportunity for it. And for the BDMs that want it, and let me tell you, I have seen a lot of BDMs that are getting hungry. I've seen a quality of BDMs that we are hiring that are coming in, and just the game of practice that we're doing today has gotten better from where we were even 3 years ago. I've seen a level of proficiency in our salespeople increase, and I've seen the salespeople that are really taking practice seriously start to get better. And like Jason said, I think one of the benefits that people don't miss out on is the coaching that happens during practice, right? So it's not just coming and getting a rep, it's getting our expertise, it's getting our perspective. So whether it's Hannah or Reese or I that's hosting practice, you're getting the coach's insight, which if you can take that and really learn from it and embody it in your next sales presentation, or take that little thing that's like, oh yeah, that's going to elevate you as a salesperson. And I think that's why we'll continue to make sure that we're creating the space for people to practice.
Amazing. Jason, I was Sheffield. I want to say, keep having to like use a last name after I say Jason, so everybody knows who I'm talking to, including you guys. Just absolutely love and respect you, the commitment you give to the company, the commitment you give to the BDMs. Like, you care so much. I'm constantly watching you develop these relationships, and that's not PR marketing speak. That's just total gratitude. So thank you so much, even for bringing this story to our attention and wanting to highlight Jason Jabbour. So Jason, I just want to ask you, like, you're 6 months in to a new career. It's an unusual career that, you know, maybe your friends don't understand. You're doing something new. You seem to be having fun. You seem to be getting better. I just want to ask you kind of what's next? Like, what's your mindset a year in, you know, maybe like 6 months from now? Where do you want to be? What are you going to focus on, and how can we help support you?
Yeah. 6 months from now, obviously, I want to still be a successful BDM, possibly move up into an account management role, looking over all of the portfolios and how they're actually performing. But realistically, I always think I'm going to be in BDM some way, somehow, in any field. But I think I'm going to stick to property management for a while until I get this company up and running. So I'm happy here.
We're grateful that you came into our sphere. We think you're amazing. Listen, we've coached hundreds of property managers, and Jason will be a testament to that. And we're just blown away by your attitude and your commitment and your ability to be in the awkwardness, which is what, you know, practice is, and going through it. Like, nobody gets good at anything without sucking a whole lot, you know, and I get that. And that's what holds so many of us back, which is why we like to call it practice and not role play. Because you were a baseball player, you get it, you go to practice, that's where you mess up. So we're so glad that you are showing up in this way. You're doing amazing things for the company you work for. You're helping out the community from what we're hearing. When you show up to practice, that's actually helping out other BDMs. Like, just think about it. You're going to be a mentor before you know it. You're going to be helping somebody else, you know, a couple months behind you. And as Jen said in our skill dev video, you know, do one, I forget what it is. It's like, do one something, teach one. And that's what you're doing. So you will be coaching and teaching before you realize it. And that's when you will personally really reach the next level. So hope you embrace that. Thank you so much for investing the time. Any parting shots as we sign off?
I just want to say thank you for having me again. And if any BDMs are on here, show up to practice. Do it. You won't regret it.
It's the Nike logo. Just do it, right? I agree. Well, thanks so much, Jason and Jason. Want to share with you guys some awesome events that are coming up. But first, let's hear from one of our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Strategic PM, the magazine for property management entrepreneurs and executives. If you go online to strategicpm.com today, you're going to find an entire website full of content written about your industry and by your peers. And it's completely free to sign up. Just go ahead and click on the create a free account right in the upper right-hand corner. When you click on that, not only can you create a digital account, but you can actually add your mailing address, and we will send you a free 1-year subscription of the print magazine, which will be showing up in your offices every single quarter. So if you take a look inside the magazine, what you're going to see is that we are focused on growth. We've got 5 pillars of Strategic PM: vision, strategy, culture, marketing, and experience. You're going to be seeing some great high-class content from some of the best thought leaders in the industry talking about the matters that matter the most to your business. So sign up for free today at strategicpm.com and look for the magazine in your office.
Well, thanks for being here, guys. I'm so proud of the team, both my team as coaches and the Scale Club community and what they do. As if you can't tell, my voice is not 100% because I have been on a just basically a nonstop trip. been to several conferences, as you know. So I want to share with you some of the upcoming events. The event calendar is getting a little smaller because some of the spring events are in our rearview mirror. We still got some great events coming up. So the first thing is actually a RentScale event. So when we went to CalNARPM, we shared the 3 lessons that we learned hiring over 300 business development managers. And we're actually going to do that as a webinar. It was one of the most popular talks from what we heard at CalNARPM. And this is on May 15th. So reach out to us, go to our website. We have this information on all of our social media channels. So we are going to share everything we've learned from hiring either close to or right over. By the time we do this webinar, it's probably over 300 BDMs, and we will have an amazing webinar sharing everything that we've done. I'll drop the link in the show notes below. And George, if you can do that, should be in the notes. Just copy and paste that. Let's make sure everybody has it. So on May 15th, Jen and I are going to have a webinar about everything, or I shouldn't say everything, but the top 3 lessons that we learned from hiring almost 300 BDMs in the last 5 years. After that, we're back to conference life. You know, as you guys may or may not know, I'm here in Boca Raton. It's just a drive for me. I am going down to the IMN Single Family Forum. It's on May 20th to 22nd, and it's in Miami. It should be great. I know a ton of clients are going. We're really looking forward to it. So you can sign up online right there at the web address on the screen. And I'll be there. If you want to meet up, if you want to talk, please let me know. Looking at a little bit more in the future, kind of at the end of the summer, the NARPM Southern States Conference has joined forces in partnership with Florida State. So if you guys remember in the past, there's the Florida State Conference and the Southern States Conference. They're doing it together. They're doing it in the panhandle of Florida. I'm not upset, but it's as far away in Florida as you can possibly get from my house. I can't figure out if I'm going to drive there or fly there because I think it's like a 12-hour drive. But it looks amazing. And I saw the resort, and I will definitely be there. And I'm really excited because some of our good friends in the industry are putting this on. It's August 27th to 29th. NARPM Southern States is always great. Florida Southern States is always great. They're getting it together to this year. So if you're on the East Coast and you don't go to this thing, it is just going to be a crime. So really hope that you guys join us at one of these conferences. All of the ones I just mentioned, I will be at. I'd love to meet you guys. Well, that's it for us this week. Check out all the latest going on in property management and get details and show notes about today's show and guests and all shows. Just head over to strategicpm.com. Go to strategicpm.com. Please email our team at biz@rentscale.com. That is biz@rentscale.com. If you want to be introduced to anything, if you want to know more about the Bigger Pockets program, we want to help you guys do whatever you need. And please think about signing up for the webinar on the 15th. Please like, subscribe, and share. And most importantly, please join us again in 2 weeks when we go live as well. And that, my friends, is what's happening this week in PM.